A night of jubilation took a dark turn in Grenoble, France on May 31, 2025. The city, known for its picturesque landscapes and serene environment, was transformed into a hub of excitement and anticipation. Thousands gathered to celebrate Paris Saint-Germain's first Champions League trophy. The streets were filled with fans, their faces painted in the team's colors, waving flags and singing anthems. The air was electric with excitement, chants, and cheers. It was a moment of unity and collective joy, where strangers became friends, all bound by their love for the game. This joyous atmosphere was shattered by an unforeseen event. The shift from euphoria to horror was almost instantaneous, leaving many in disbelief. On Cours Jean-Jaurès, a main avenue, families and friends celebrated. The avenue, usually bustling with daily life, was now a sea of jubilant faces. A car, moving at high speed, careened into the crowd. The sound of screeching tires and the sudden impact sent shockwaves through the gathering. Initial reports suggest it was a reckless maneuver gone wrong. Witnesses described the car attempting a dangerous stunt, a moment of thrill that turned into a nightmare. The driver attempted a controlled skid, a dangerous stunt for a crowded street. The risk was high, and the consequences were devastating. The consequences were immediate and severe, turning celebration into chaos. Panic spread like wildfire, and the once joyous crowd was now scrambling for safety. This incident was part of wider, unruly celebrations across France. Paris witnessed widespread disturbances. The celebrations, meant to be a night of joy, were marred by chaos and disorder. PSG's victory unleashed both joy and destructive behavior. Fireworks lit up the sky, but on the ground, the scene was far from celebratory. The Grenoble incident stands out for its tragic human cost. A memorial was quickly set up, with candles and flowers marking the spot of the tragedy. A moment of collective happiness turned into one of shock and sorrow. The faces that were once lit with joy were now marked by grief and disbelief. The city's residents were left with an indelible mark of despair. The night that was supposed to be remembered for a historic victory will now be remembered for a tragic loss. The tragedy in Grenoble began with reckless driving. What was supposed to be a night of celebration quickly turned into a nightmare. The streets were filled with jubilant football fans, their cheers echoing through the night. But amidst the revelry, danger was lurking. A BMW 1 Series sped along Cours Jean-Jaurès, packed with football fans. The driver, caught up in the excitement, pushed the car to its limits, weaving through the crowded streets with little regard for safety. The driver attempted a dangerous stunt, a controlled skid. It was a reckless move meant to impress, but it quickly spiraled out of control. The car swerved wildly, tires screeching against the asphalt. He lost control, veering towards the celebrating crowd. The joyous atmosphere turned to one of terror as the car hurtled towards the unsuspecting fans. The transition from stunt to accident was swift and horrifying. In a matter of seconds, the car went from a symbol of excitement to an instrument of chaos. The crowd had no time to react. The sudden shift from celebration to catastrophe left them stunned and helpless. The car struck several individuals, causing panic and horror. The impact was devastating, sending people flying and creating a scene of utter chaos. Screams replaced cheers as people scrambled to safety. The once festive street was now filled with cries of pain and fear. The festive atmosphere turned grim with urgent medical needs. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, tending to the injured and trying to restore some semblance of order. Authorities confirmed the act was unintentional. The driver, now in custody, was visibly shaken, realizing the gravity of his actions. The driver's misjudgment had catastrophic consequences. What was meant to be a thrilling display ended in tragedy, leaving a community in mourning. The incident is a stark reminder of the dangers of reckless behavior. It underscores the importance of responsible driving, especially in crowded areas. PSG's victory is now tinged with the memory of this accident. What should have been a night of pure joy is now forever marred by the events that unfolded. The community is left to grapple with the aftermath. Vigils and memorials have been set up, as people come together to mourn and support one another. The joyous occasion turned into a somber event. The memory of the celebration is now intertwined with the sorrow of the tragedy, a stark reminder of how quickly life can change. The victims in Grenoble were all from the same family. What started as a joyous occasion quickly turned into a scene of horror and despair. 4 individuals, united in celebration, were hit by the out-of-control vehicle. The car, driven by an unknown assailant, plowed through the crowd without warning, leaving chaos in its wake. Their joy turned into an ordeal in seconds. Witnesses described the scene as surreal, with screams filling the air and people rushing to help the injured. The family included two 17-year-old men, a 23-year-old woman, and a 46-year-old woman. Each of them had their own dreams and aspirations, now cruelly interrupted. The 23-year-old woman is in critical condition. She was celebrating her recent graduation, a milestone that has now been overshadowed by this tragedy. Two others are in intensive care. Their conditions are being closely monitored by medical professionals who are doing everything they can to save their lives. The fourth victim, another 17-year-old, is also badly injured. He was looking forward to starting college in the fall, a future now uncertain. All were treated at the scene before being transported to the hospital. The quick response of emergency services undoubtedly saved lives, but the road to recovery will be long and arduous. The community is deeply affected by their plight. Vigils have been held and support is pouring in from all corners as people come together to offer their prayers and assistance. The focus remains on their recovery. Medical teams are working tirelessly, and the family is surrounded by love and support, hoping for a miracle. This incident underscores the fragility of life. In an instant, everything can change, reminding us to cherish every moment we have with our loved ones. A moment of celebration turned into personal tragedy. The family's ordeal is a stark reminder of how precious and unpredictable life can be. The driver of the BMW made a series of fateful decisions. His dangerous stunt amidst a dense crowd led to the tragedy. Following the collision, he attempted to flee. He abandoned the BMW and left the scene. Fear of the angered crowd likely motivated his flight. However, he soon surrendered to the authorities. His surrender allowed law enforcement to begin their investigation. The driver is now in police custody. Investigators are piecing together the exact chain of events. The legal process is underway. The community awaits further information. The driver faces severe legal repercussions. Emergency services responded swiftly to the incident. Police officers secured the area and managed the panicked crowd. Firefighters provided immediate first aid and managed the scene. SAMU 38, the local emergency medical service, treated the injured. The scene presented significant challenges for responders. Some groups within the crowd became hostile towards authorities. Police used tear gas to restore order. The emergency services demonstrated professionalism and courage. They managed a multifaceted crisis involving serious injuries and public disorder. The tragic events in Grenoble unfolded against a backdrop of national excitement. PSG had achieved a monumental victory, defeating Inter Milan 5-0. This was PSG's first Champions League trophy. The victory ignited passionate celebrations among fans. Thousands gathered in public spaces to share their joy. In Grenoble, Cours Jean-Jaurès became a focal point for celebrations. The scale of the celebrations was enormous. The atmosphere was one of pure happiness. The driver was likely caught up in this celebratory fervor. The tragedy is intertwined with the event that brought people together. PSG's victory is now shadowed by the sorrowful events in Grenoble. Paris experienced chaos as PSG's victory celebrations spiraled out of control. Major roads and squares were inundated with fans. Joyous revelry soon descended into public disorder. Vandalism and violence were widespread. Cars were set on fire, and fireworks were fired at police. Looting became a significant problem. High-profile retailers were broken into and looted. A massive police presence was deployed. Riot police used tear gas and baton charges to restore order. Hundreds of arrests were made. The night was a mix of celebration and violence. Disturbances were not confined to France. Munich, the host city, also witnessed fan violence. Clashes between rival supporters erupted at Frotmaning Station. The station became a scene of conflict. These incidents detract from the spirit of the game. Fan violence remains a concern that transcends national borders. Grenoble awoke to the grim reality of the previous night's tragedy. The focus remains on the victims, particularly the critically injured. The driver remains in custody, and an investigation is underway. The legal process will scrutinize every detail of the incident. The community grapples with the aftermath. The events of May 31, 2025, will be remembered for both PSG's triumph and the tragedy in Grenoble.